So, thanks for coming today and being willing to nerd out with me about breath stuff today.
Yes.
I love breath work because it's kind of like, I think of it as like another tool in my toolkit of things to help me stay calm and stay regulated. So, along with like meditation or taking a walk or just anything that brings you back into that mode of like feeling zen. And I like to have a routine and I like to have those things that I can come back to, but I'm definitely not the kind of person that wants to do the same thing every day or that necessarily practices the same thing every day. So I like to have different things. So for me, breath work is one of those things that I don't practice it every day, but sometimes I feel like I need to and I want to. And so I'll do that. A lot of times for me, it's when I just need to calm myself or kind of like recenter, especially before like a performance on stage or something that kind of gives me that anxiety. And then other times when I just am like tired and it can kind of give me energy. So we'll kind of go over today several different techniques and kind of the ways where they have a lot of similar benefits, but then also different benefits. And so I enjoy breath work for that reason. It's just kind of like one more thing I can add into my routine, something when I'm like, I need to like reach for something that's going to make me feel good and feel happy. And breath work is one of those things. And there's, just to kind of like be specific about the kind of breath work we're going to be doing today, there is another type of breath work that I'm like barely scratched the surface of learning about, and it's called like holotropic breath work. And that's a technique where you basically do a lot of like really forceful inhalations and exhalations over a period of time, and it actually creates like a pattern in your brain that like releases like molecules like DMT. So it's called holotropic breath work because it actually can give you like a psychedelic experience, like taking a psychedelic drug. And so that is a whole nother like world of breath work and another technique that a lot of people do utilize because it can help, just like psychedelics can, with like a whole host of like brain rewiring basically. But that's not what we're doing today. So this is like much more basic and much more geared towards like self-regulation. And so just to kind of start off with like a couple of basic like definitions, thinking about self-regulation, like it's kind of a buzzword. I'm sure both of you, like on Instagram and just like different things you read and follow, people talk a lot about self-regulation and like the different things you can do to self-regulate, the things I was just talking about, like taking a walk, drinking a cup of tea, hugging a friend, like all of these things. And what it really comes down to is the way our nervous system is set up, obviously, is we have the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. And the sympathetic nervous system, I suppose it's probably called sympathetic because it is feeling the experience of the outside world. So the sympathetic nervous system is like what puts you into fight or flight. It's the part of our nervous system that is designed to react to outside stimuli, basically to keep us safe. And so obviously there's a great evolutionary purpose for that. So we can, avoid like a tree falling on us or a wolf chasing us or whatever. But we can definitely get really spun out as humans in today's society because I feel like at the end of the day, like our minds and the way we like cognitively have placed like values on certain things in society or certain tasks or certain like markers of success, it can make us feel like things are life or death when they're really not. And so a lot of people are walking around like in fight or flight all of the time because they have way too many things on their to-do list. They're in a rush all the time. They have pressure from their boss and their peers and their partners, like whatever. And so like I certainly know how that feels. I feel like that's been kind of a big part of my personal journey, is like realizing that I was in this like amped up state all the time and then having the chance to experience not that, which was what happened to me during COVID. And it was like this huge blessing in disguise for me because I'm like, oh, like I don't just need to be like running on adrenaline all the time. And of course it's like, being hyped up like that, it's not good for you either because things like your cortisol spikes. I mean, everything, your nervous system is like, that's the alarm bell, and then your whole body system reacts to it, all of your hormones. And there's just a trickle down effect where when your hormones are racing all the time, it makes your hormone systems less flexible, and so they're not able to self-regulate. And then just the hormones in your body, like cortisol, can lead to like weight gain and things like that are just like not usually what people want, typically. So all that's to be said, that is the sympathetic nervous system. And so the breathwork techniques we're going to be talking about today are really designed to help activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the other part of the autonomic nervous system that basically is bringing you back into a state of like rest and digest. So thinking about like imagining if you were like an animal in the woods, that's like kind of what you're in all day. You're either in a hunting, looking for something mode, out being predator, trying not to be prey, or you're like curled up on a mossy log somewhere, like sleeping and digesting your food, So that's how our nervous system is set up, is to kind of toggle between those two things. And the parasympathetic nervous system brings you back into that state of feeling calm, and it creates that sense of safety in your body. And so that's ultimately what we want. And the reason why we want to have these tools in our toolkit is so when we're going about our day and we start to recognize that amped up fight or flight feeling, we can tell our brain, oh, wait, I'm actually not in danger. So I need to bring myself back into the relaxed state of rest and digest, because that's a much more healthy, like, bottom line for your body to be running on. And so normally you get into rest and digest by actually being in a state of safety. But for us, we can trick ourselves with our minds into getting back into that state, just like our minds trick us into thinking that something is life or death, when really it's just like a deadline for something that your boss needs. It's really not that important, right? So the techniques today are basically designed to to let your brain tell your body, I am safe, and I'm going to take steps that prove to my body that I'm safe. And by taking those steps, my body then does begin to feel safe. So you're actually like creating for yourself the safety that you need. And it starts with the mind, it goes through your nervous system, and it comes out through your body. And so one of the main ways that whole communication mechanism happens is through your vagus nerve. And your vagus nerve is a massive nerve that runs through your entire body. It touches most of your major organs like liver, kidneys, reproductive organs, lungs, heart. It's called vagus from like the root word for like vagabond, because it's such a huge nerve. It just like wanders through your entire system. And the vagus nerve is like the main kind of like artery of the parasympathetic nervous system. And so things that stimulate the vagus nerve can also help stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system, just toning them, just like, working a certain muscle is going to tone that muscle. And so learning how to do things that stimulate the vagus nerve means that you're also learning how to do things that stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system. And so the things that stimulate the vagus nerve include something like breath work. So we'll do a few techniques like that today. And then also include some like somatic release exercises, which there's a ton of different exercises. And there's a ton of breathwork exercises too, but what I'm showing today are like the ones that I actually use in practice, because that's what I feel like the most familiar with. And yeah, basically the breathwork and the somatic release exercises, they both stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system in different ways. And like I said, are just great things that you can reach for when you want something healthy to calm down that fight or flight. Because we know that in our society, kind of like the common thing that people reach for when they feel that stress is something that's going to like numb out the brain, whether it's like alcohol or like binge watching Netflix or like whatever, your 15th latte of the day. Like we've all been there. So these are just things that again can kind of help you get to where you want to go in a little bit healthier way. So with all of that background, which you may have both already known all of this, so I'm sorry if that was repetitive or boring or not interesting, but are there any questions? Okay, Perfect. So let's get started. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just kind of going to go through, we'll start with the breathing techniques and then do the somatic release exercises. And for the breathing techniques, what I kind of want to do is I just want to like demonstrate them for you because it's very hard to teach and talk and also do breathing exercises at the same time. So I'll kind of talk us through it and then I'll demonstrate it for you and then I'll just give everyone like a couple minutes to kind of practice it on your own and to like actually feel it in your body and then ask me if you have any questions about like if you're doing it right or not, you know? So the first one we'll start with is deep belly breathing. It's diaphragmatic breathing. And this is a breath that I was like introduced to during my yoga teacher training, Samporna yoga. It's the kind of yoga I teach and I really appreciate it because it does incorporate different aspects of this kind of nervous system regulation work into the practice itself. And so I feel very fortunate that during that training, I also got a lot of this training. So diaphragmatic breathing is really focused on bringing the breath deep down into the bottom of your lungs and actually consciously moving your diaphragm down and out so your belly expands. And then as you exhale, feeling it move inward and upward. And again, breath is something we don't consciously think about really at all because we do it automatically, but actually really keying in and becoming conscious of how your diaphragm really moves when you're taking these deep breaths is very enlightening because for me, it showed me how I literally had been breathing wrong like my entire life. And so one of the other benefits of these breathwork exercises is I feel like just in general, it will get you more in touch with your body and your breath. And being in touch with your breath, for me, what I've really noticed is it's helped me a lot with like cardiovascular exercise. I was kind of always a mouth breather and really realizing that focusing on breathing correctly into the diaphragm, in and out through the nose and using that muscle, if I like think about that while I'm running, I start to get into a rhythm where I'm like, oh, I'm breathing correctly. This isn't painful anymore. Because I used to hate doing anything that would make me breathe too hard because I was just breathing really heavy and high in my chest. And that's what a lot of people do. And one thing that was brought up to me in my yoga teacher training that really resonated is I think for women especially, we don't breathe into our diaphragm because it's forcing you to push your belly out. And that's like really often not what we do. So I remember being like a ballet student and I'd always be like trying to keep everything like super sucked in. And then you're breathing shallow up here. And it was like, I felt like running a marathon doing like a 3-minute dance, but it's because I wasn't breathing properly because you have that like vanity aspect or whatever. So with this one, you just definitely let it all hang out. So for the deep belly breath, you're going to breathe in through the nose. I usually do it for an inhale of 4 counts and an exhale of 4 counts. And you can place a hand on your chest and a hand on your belly if you want. For the first one, I won't do that so you can like clearly see what my body is doing. But it's just a deep breath deep into the lungs. So you can watch me do it. And it's very calming. Like even just doing 2 breaths like that, I can feel the calm. So if you want to try that on your own, and just let me know kind of how it feels for you. Like I said, I'd recommend putting your hand on your belly because again, if you're not doing this regularly, it's really like there's so many muscles and parts of our body that like our brain doesn't consciously talk to. So it's building a relationship with that part of your body. And so like this breath is extremely basic, but it also like doesn't necessarily come natural. So don't feel weird if like you're not quite getting it right now. You can definitely practice this at home. But yeah, like I said, just take a couple minutes and just kind of feel into that deep belly breath and really imagine connecting with that diaphragm muscle and feeling it push down and out, feeling your belly expand. And then you'll feel it like pushing down into your organs, and you'll feel this space being created in your abdomen. Do you feel like you're experiencing the breath?
It's very calming.
It is, right? It's like so simple, and it's so calming, and it's like it just instantly brings you, I mean, the diaphragm is located like right over your solar plexus, which as like it's like your power chakra, right? It's like your source of energy. And so I feel like this breath is so good to you energetically because of the way it just like pulls you out of your head and just instantly down into this part of your body where you're like, oh, this is like where my power is. And so it's very calming to feel yourself like grounded into that. So this one is definitely one that I do when I'm just like running around and I'm like sitting in my car and have to go talk to someone, and I'm just like, I just need to chill for a few minutes. And so just taking a few deep breaths like this can really make a huge difference. So the next one I want to go over is called yogic breathing. And this one is, again, pretty straightforward, but this one I feel like is a little bit more of an energizing breath. This one has a lot of benefits outside of nervous system regulation, and that it can help to like increase your lung capacity and other things that are just really good for your overall health. And so for this one, again, you inhale and exhale through the nose. For this one, rather than the inhale and the exhale being 4 counts, this one can be like 8 to 12 counts, kind of depending on what feels good to you. I usually do 8 counts. But this one, you start in the same way with breathing deep into the bottom lobes of your lungs, feeling the diaphragm move down and out, the belly creating space. But then, if you notice in the last one, it was really about pushing the breath down into the belly, and like my chest didn't rise and fall that much. This one, you push down into your belly, but then you let the air rise through your chest cavity, and you'll feel your lungs expanding in all 4 directions, front, back, side, side. And when you get to the very top of the breath, you want to lift your shoulders a little bit and kind of pull them out, and it's going to fill up that space in your lungs right here, kind of under your armpit, and lift your collarbone. So you're really opening up this whole top part of your chest to fill with air. And so this is really good, like I said, for expanding lung capacity. And then when you reverse the breath and exhale, you let your shoulders drop first, you feel your rib cage contract, and then you feel your diaphragm push in and up to expel all of the air. And this is a really good one too, because just I think this kind of 3-phase process of the breath gives the mind a good thing to focus on, and it can really help you feel connected in your body too, of like your abdominal muscles through your chest, through your shoulders, and really focusing on like the waves of the breath, the inhales and the exhales throughout the body. So I will do a couple of these for you that you can watch. So were you able to kind of see it through my body? Yeah. So if you guys want to try that, or if you have any questions, go ahead and give it a shot. This one is, like I said, a really good one to do. I feel like, you know, if I'm feeling kind of like stressed, but also like I need energy, you know, when you feel like kind of mentally stressed, but physically tired, I feel like this one kind of helps bring that back into balance. How is that feeling for everyone? Good? Relaxing? But also like expansive and kind of refreshing? Yeah.
Different from the other one.
It is different. It's interesting how subtle that difference can be, because again, this one, like, you're lifting and expanding your energy, so it does have a little bit of a more uplifting quality, but also still calming and centering. So yeah, this is kind of like, the other one's like my stress breath, and this one's kind of more of like, I just need to like settle before my next thing that I'm doing or something. And I like this one too, because like you might have noticed and felt it with like the long exhalation for the 8 or 12 counts, whatever you were doing. I feel like it really, using the diaphragm, it really brings you into contact, I feel like, with all of your abdominal muscles. And I feel like, again, that's like another like side benefit of breath work, is I feel like since I started practicing breath work, in addition to yoga and other things, I feel like my like abdominal strength and like how my abdominals look and stuff, I feel like it just like got better just from like the breath work. And the next one we're going to do, I feel like definitely has that effect too. So this one is called Kapala body breathing. And this is one that I also learned at my yoga teacher training. And this is a really good breath. This one is like a little bit more of like a more advanced technique, but it's really good for overall like general health. It's a cleansing breath because it's a series of forceful exhalations. And it's cleansing because it does help push all of the like stale air that gets stuck in the bottom of your lungs and like in the far reaches of your alveoli. And it can help like expectorate things too. So a lot of times when I do my first round of Kapala body breathing, I'll like have to cough or I'll blow my nose. So again, it's like one of the tenets of like, you know, a full spectrum yogic practice is like keeping the body cleansed. They have all different ways you can cleanse your body, but one of the like organ systems that needs to be cleansed too is your respiratory system. And you know, this is just a good, like, again, baseline breath to help you do that, because it just kind of helps push everything out through your sinuses, through your lungs, all of it. And I like to do this one too, like if I feel like I might be like kind of getting sick or like I'm congested because, I don't know, I was like driving through construction dust all day or like whatever. I feel like this is kind of a good one to just help you feel like whatever's like in your nose and like in your system is kind of getting pushed out. And like I said, this one's also really good for the abdominal muscles. And this one is a much more like energizing one as well. So I'll demonstrate for you how it works. So you just sit, I'm gonna comfortable upright position with a straight spine. And like I said, it's going to be forceful, a series of repeated, forceful, quick exhalations. There's no active inhalation. Your lungs will just automatically suck air back in. And so you're not going to like run out of breath or anything, even though all you're doing is exhaling. But you're basically contracting all of your abdominal muscles and your diaphragm at the same time. So I imagine that everything, it's like, if there's like a circle of muscle, I imagine everything's like contracting in and kind of up. So it's like kind of like a pulsing motion like that. And so I'll just go ahead and demonstrate. So that's it. Like I said, I definitely felt a little like tickle in the back of my throat as I was doing it. But yeah, if you want to go ahead and try that. It can sometimes feel weird to like do in front of other people, but we're all here. This is what we're here for. And you'll feel it, like your muscles, you'll definitely feel afterwards. You're like, oh, I worked muscles. Yeah.
That builds some heat in the body.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. It does build a lot of heat in the body because you're really putting your whole energetic center into it.
Mm-hmm.
And so this breath is very similar to like Wim Hof breathing, which is a technique that I know like a lot of people have heard of because this guy Wim Hof like rediscovered all of these breathing techniques and was able to do these crazy things like run a marathon like in the snow barefoot and like not get cold, like crazy stuff.
Yes.
Like I don't know if that's the exact story, but it was something along those lines.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. So this one does build a lot of heat, and you're right that like it does need to be kind of quick, but it's hard. Like again, it's a skill. It takes the skill of like building the relationship with those muscles to like get them to like go as fast as you want them to. And so it's a good thing to practice. And so I kind of have a sequence of breathing that I usually do. And a lot of times when I'm like practicing yoga at home, I'll do like a certain sequence of breathing and I'll end with the Kabbalah body breathing. And then kind of another like advanced technique that we can go into now, which is called Uddiyana Bandha. And so I build my breath practice in with my yoga practice to start with the belly breathing, move into like the 3-tiered breathing, and then do the Kabbalah body breathing with the Uddiyana Bandha. And then also incorporate in some like breath retention just to like, again, help build your lung capacity and build like your ability to hold your breath, because that is really important. And holding your breath in and of itself can also be incredibly calming, because it's actually the carbon dioxide that signals to your body to relax, not the oxygen, which is very weird and counterintuitive, but it's like that's the way the system works. And so that's why doing breathing exercises, it's often the long exhales that are really the things that bring you back down into that thing. It's some way with how the carbon dioxide like works in your blood and how that communicates with your nervous system. So Uddiyana Bandha, this is kind of like a little bit of a side note because it's not necessarily a breath technique, but it's something that can go along really well with the Kabbalah body breathing, because the Kabbalah body breathing is setting your abdominal muscles up for the same action that is required in Uddiyana Bandha. And what a bandha is it's just like, it's an advanced yoga technique of locking different parts of your body that normally wouldn't lock to to build strength and to like stimulate internal organs in a way that normally wouldn't. Because that's really like what a lot of yoga is like learning how to give your internal organs a massage yourself by like bending your body so that, you know, things push and stack and pull on each other. And so I know there's bandhas that are like really good for strengthening like your pelvic floor, for example. That's one area where you can learn to contract all of those muscles in a certain way where it builds strength and helps to support like the rest of the internal organs in that part of the body. I'm not a bandha expert. I am not familiar with many of the other bandhas, but usually the first one you learn is Uddiyana Bandha because it's one of the easiest ones to like access. And so Uddiyana Bandha I'm very familiar with. And that one is creating a lock in your diaphragm. And it's basically using your diaphragm to like push your lungs like up, and it creates like a suction, and it stretches out, like it's so hard to explain, but it stretches out and stimulates like the whole chest cavity in your lungs. And it feels like it stretches and massages like your esophagus and your trachea and like that whole part of your body, like really opening up space in your neck and the back of your head and that whole area. It's all interconnected, your sinuses. And so this bandha feels really good to do after the Kapalabhati breathing. And so I'll just kind of show you like what it looks like and how it works. And then if you want to try it, you can definitely try it. And then I'll kind of like just walk you through like the entire breath sequence that I do. And then it will like be putting all the pieces together of everything that we just learned. So I'm going to do a few Kapalabhati breaths, and then I'll go into the Uddiyana Bandha, and you'll be able to see what it does. I'm just going to lift my shirt up a little bit so you can see it more clearly, but just be here. I'm going to do my breaths. So it looks really weird. Basically, so on that, you'll do like the last forceful exhale of the Kapalabhati. And when you do that exhale, you'll just like keep exhaling, like pushing all of the diaphragm, just pushing everything into that center, pushing it up and in, and you'll feel it. And then you'll kind of start to like suck in, like that feeling of like, oh, I'm sucking in under my rib cage. And then eventually you'll feel it like a suction almost happen, like inside your body. You'll feel a suction happen, and you'll feel it open up this space, like the back of your throat will feel open. And then you just hold it. You're not breathing when you're doing it, but then when you come in to inhale, it'll be a slow inhalation, and you'll really feel this whole part of your lungs, like it kind of wants to like almost like pop out because it was like suctioned up. It'll want to pop out, but you'll want to, inhale with control. But you'll really feel how that is like really stretching your diaphragm and stretching out that whole part of your body so that it can, hold more air and just be a stronger vessel for everything that's in there. So if you guys want to try it, or if you have any questions, let me know too. And also if like I said, this is like a more advanced technique. If it feels like something you don't want to do, you also don't need to do it. I just threw it in here because again, it's part of my practice and I thought it was interesting. Yeah. No, it's totally fine. It's totally fine. Are you feeling it though? Like
a little bit, yeah. Like the first time I did it, the second time I was just like, my mind was not.
Yeah, no, it is kind of hard. I mean, and there's times too where like I go to do it and it doesn't like catch, and it really does make a difference of like having like an empty stomach and all that, obviously, because there's stuff in the way. And so having an empty stomach really helps. And like I said, don't worry too much about it. This one is kind of just like an extra thing, but it is really good for like working this part of your body and, stimulating all of the circulation and things. Yeah.
I was like, am I doing this right? But I was like, definitely like in the
Did you
back.
feel it like not choke, but
no,
like.
but I felt something there.
Yeah. No, that's good. And that's good
Yeah.
to feel that, because it's like it's stretching and opening up a part of your body that you like probably never have before, because how else would you?
Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Cool.
it was really interesting. And then like the controlled like inhale afterwards.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Did you feel that like resistance where it's like it wanted to almost like explode out, but you're like, no, I have to be controlled, but it really works that muscle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's go ahead, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of show you what I do for my like breath workout every day. Not every day. Every day that I do it. It's going from the Kabbalah body breathing into the Uddiyana Bandha into a breath retention. So I'm just going to demonstrate it for you. And then if you want to try it, you can. If you want to just have it be something that you take with you, that's totally fine too. But I'll just kind of show you what it is. And what I do is I do 3 sequences of it. So usually at the beginning of my yoga practice, when I'm doing a full practice for myself, incorporating all the breathing, I'll do the deep belly breath. I'll do that like 4 times. So 4 inhales and exhales each time. Then I'll move into the 3-part breathing, and I'll do that 4 times, again with the inhales and the exhales. And then I'll do the sequence I'm about to show you, and I'll do that like 3 times. And then after that, I'm like, ooh, I feel really good. So the sequence now, like the end part, it just starts with the Kabbalah body. So that was that whole sequence. And so I did the Kabbalah body. I do like usually 20 to 30 of the exhalations. I exhale really hard on the last one. I do the Uddiyana Bandha. And then when I release from the Bandha, it's like a deep inhale. I just stretch my arms up, take like a really deep breath, filling, you know, my whole chest cavity up with air. Take another nice intentional exhale, kind of bringing everything back into center, back to kind of a normal state. And then I'll take one of those deep belly breaths, like really pressing the air deep into the lungs. And that's when and then I'll hold that breath and I'll retain it. So that one I held for like 60 seconds. And again, it's one of those things that you're probably not going to hold your breath for that long at first. And there's been times like when I was like at the yoga training place for a month and doing it every day, I was holding my breath for like 2 minutes. And now like that doesn't feel comfortable. So I'm like kind of a little bit out of it, right? But when I first started, it was like 30 seconds is like usually what felt good. And you don't want to like fight your breath because you can kind of start to feel when it starts to feel like uncomfortable. And so just like, I always say like, I kind of usually try to push past that like for another 5 or 10 seconds. And then I'll be like, okay, I need to breathe. And I'll do that. And so I do that sequence that I just showed you like 3 times. And then I move on to the rest of my practice. So do you guys want to try that? Do you want to try it?
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
I can try, but I'm not good at breathing in general.
No,
It takes practice.
It does.
Go like literally 2 weeks, and I cannot recall one time of consciously taking a breath.
Yeah.
For
People
2 weeks
well, people
straight.
like
Practice.
hold their breath when you're emailing. That's like a thing. Like
I
you
know.
hold
When
your
you
breath
get
like
stressed, if
Yes.
you're any
Yeah.
of those things, it is all of it.
all
Or
of
we
it.
just shallow breathe
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
no, we're not taught how to
We're
even
not
do
taught
that.
any of this. This is
Yeah.
all like
Yeah.
that's why it's like
Yeah.
I didn't know any of this stuff before like 4 years ago. Like I never
Yeah.
even thought about it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was at a Tony Robbins event.
Yeah.
And he was, it might have been like a virtual one or something, but he was like, the quality of your life is the quality of your cells,
yeah.
which is really interesting.
Yes.
Right?
Like,
Yeah.
And then how do you have, like, the quality of your cells is based upon, like, breathing. Like, breathing
Yeah.
is a fundamental
Sure.
piece of it. And so we did a lot of breathwork exercises.
Oh, cool. Very
there.
cool. Yeah.
But it's about like finding that peace, taking care
Mhm.
of yourself, coming back to center.
It really
coming back
is.
home to yourself.
Yeah.
you
Totally.
know? Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
It is because it's like, you know, our cells are listening to our
Mhm.
minds and what
Mhm.
we're putting into it like all the time, you know, and we all have our genetic code,
Mhm.
but we all know that the genetic code for like everything in the world is like 99% the same. So it's like, what is making it express differently? And it's, you know, it's us. It's how we, you know, it's like how like the whole field of like epigenetics is becoming more and more like understood and more like seen as like, oh, this is like a real thing.
Mhm.
Like, you know, the rats in a cage that like get shocked every time they go out the door. And so eventually they stop. And then their babies that never had that experience for some reason still know not to go out the door
Mhm.
because that's in their cells.
Mhm.
So it's like generational trauma isn't
Exactly.
it's not just a mechanism of like behavioral traits that are passed on. It's also like in our actual
It's in
bodies.
Our DNA.
Yeah.
It's how we're wired.
And it's crazy and it sounds
Mhm.
like super woo woo, but then when you actually start reading about it, you're like, this
No.
actually makes complete sense.
Yeah. It's like the book, The Body Keeps Score.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it didn't start with you. I think that's
Mhm.
another one too, where it talks about, well, trauma and then talking about generational trauma.
Yeah.
And how it's not just in behavioral stuff that
Yeah.
you're saying, but really, like,
Yeah.
you're hardwired. Like, I'm hardwired for shame,
Yeah.
which sucks.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah. I know, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So let me know, do you guys want to try it or go on to the next thing? You want to try it?
I can
Yeah,
try
do
Yeah,
it.
let's try it.
I would love it
Okay.
if you tried it.
Yes.
Do you want me to guide you through it?
Yes,
Yes.
please.
Okay,
Yeah.
so so start off, just go ahead and close your eyes because I think that makes everyone like a little bit more comfortable. Just go ahead and close your eyes and just kind of breathe as normal. And I'm going to count to 3 and then I'm going to start saying exhale, exhale, exhale. And that's going to be for doing the Kabbalah body breathing. 1, 2, 3. Exhale, 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 and exhale. Push it all out. Feel those muscles clench, pull them in and up. See if you can find that suction, that lock in the bandha. Even if you can't, just hold it. Feel that space being created in your back, in the back of your shoulders, your neck. And now slowly open that diaphragm up. Take a nice deep breath. You can lift your arms overhead, letting your lungs expand. Stretching out your arms. And then bringing your arms back into center and pressing all of the air back out. Nice deep exhale, kind of coming back to center, back to normal. And now with your next inhale, pushing it deep into your belly, one of those deep belly breaths. And when you get to the bottom of the breath, completely full, holding it. Feeling that diaphragm, feeling it being pushed out and down. Just feeling it actively, being an active muscle, holding all of that space with all of that air open, and just focus on relaxing your muscles. Sometimes drawing your focus to the point between your eyebrows, focusing on relaxing your face. Just pushing yourself to the edge, and then when you feel like you need to take a breath, just taking a breath. What do you think?
That was really good.
Good. Okay.
Talking through it was very helpful.
Yeah.
Because like I can't.
Yeah.
I'm like trying to like read the stuff. So
I know, and and that's why like I really had to think through how I was going to teach this, because it's very hard to teach. And that's why I wanted to do this workshop, is because the way I was trained to teach yoga incorporates all of this in at the beginning of class, but it can be very hard with like new people all the time to always go into all the detail that I feel like you really need to not have people feeling like what's going on. You know what I mean? Or like feel uncomfortable. And so I'm like doing this, I think, is making me a better teacher at the breath aspect of it, but also I think just giving people an opportunity to practice it.
Well, that was like perfect talking through.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Okay.
I feel better now.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah. No, it is hard, and that's why it's like, again, written directions I feel like are never really the best way to go, but I wanted to have something that you guys could take home after and refer back to, because now, like, that's the goal of today really, is like feeling it in your body a couple times. Now at least you kind of know what you're looking for, and you can like find your way back to it.
Yeah.
So one other breathing exercise that I want to do is alternate nostril breathing. And this is another like pretty basic technique. This one is kind of like separate from the other ones that we've done today. Like I said, I learned them all as part of my yoga training, and I learned them to be done in an intentional sequence. So the sequence that you guys just did, I'll do that after I do the 3-tiered breath, and then that after I do the deep belly breathing. So that's kind of how I warm myself up to the whole thing. And then this one, the alternate nostril breathing, is another common technique. And this one I feel like is particularly good for like calming the mind, because your breathing to begin with like alternates which nostril is dominant throughout the day on like a certain cycle. I think it's like every 30 or 45 minutes. I can't remember, but there's a certain amount of time where your body just automatically changes which nostril is dominating in your breathing, and you don't even realize it. You don't even know. But of course there's a connection, because you know your left brain and your right brain control the opposite sides of the body. And so this is a really good one for strengthening like the hemisphere connectivity, which we all know that that's a good thing, because being able to toggle between like your more logical and your more creative side is really important, especially as people are like understanding that your quote unquote like creative side is also kind of like it's like the master side. And so being able to toggle out of that like logical brain, which again, often because of how we evolved is what's putting you into fight or flight, and bring your hemispheres back into balance. So then the other side of your brain can kick in and like kind of like look at the big picture and create that feeling of safety. And so alternate nostril breathing is just really good for that because again, it's in a very focused and intentional way, like consciously training your brain to move back and forth between which side of itself it's using. And so then it just gets better at it. It's like, just like a muscle, you know, you can also train your nervous system and your brain to act a certain way. And so this one, you just use your thumb and your ring finger. You plug your right nostril and then you'll inhale through the left. And then you'll plug your left nostril and exhale through the right. And then you'll inhale through the right nostril, unplug it, and exhale with the left. And then inhale with the left, and plug it, and exhale with the right. I'll just let you guys keep doing that for a minute or two. Like I said, it's very basic, but this one it's a really good one. How does it feel? Good. Yeah, I like that one too, because like I said, I think that one in particular is good for like mental clarity and like just bringing you into focus. And like you said it very well, like bringing yourself home to yourself is like, again, our thoughts are just like always running around with like everything going on out here. And then just bringing your thoughts into like what's actually going on like in your body. It's like you realize there's like a whole nother world of things that you actually have a lot more control over than all the things that are going on out here. And that's a very...
And it's not even just the external stuff.
Yeah.
Because I have internal dialogue that
oh,
goes on all
yeah,
the time,
absolutely,
too.
absolutely.
And it's like recognizing that, like, that is just dialogue.
It is.
It's not the truth. It's not necessarily reality. And it's often we're living in the future, we're living in the past with it.
Yep.
And so it's coming home to ourselves, and then also just being able to be in the present moment with ourselves.
Yeah.
And being like, yeah, like I'm home, I'm safe, I'm
Yes.
here now with me.
Yeah.
You know,
Like I'm breathing, I'm alive,
Yeah.
I'm aware of myself,
Yeah.
I'm safe, I don't need to worry about
Mm-hmm.
what I said last night or
Yeah.
like what's happening tomorrow or
Right.
whatever. Yeah.
Like a big
Right.
reason why I'm here, because I do a lot of that inner dialogue at 2 in the
Mhm.
morning. And
Yeah.
I can't sleep.
Yeah.
And then it's like,
Yeah.
you either fall back asleep or you finally get up and you're like, none of that mattered.
I know.
So I need
Yeah.
like a way to like
Yeah.
get home again.
Yeah.
So that I can
Yeah.
sleep.
So
Yeah.
So for me, and because I've been really working on like that inner dialogue and
Mhm.
all of the things, and then and looking to incorporate different practices. And for me, it's like a combination. So the breathing, whether it's like box breathing or that deep belly breathing or something, right? So box breathing is breathe in for 4, hold for 4, exhale
Yeah,
for 4.
it's another good
hold
technique.
for 4.
And it's one they use in the
You
military
know.
a lot to teach them
Yeah.
how to like be very like
Yeah.
regulated when like
Right.
bombs are getting thrown at you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's doing the breathing, right? You can focus on the counting, but for myself, like it helps me. And I just used this a couple weeks ago, but like I'm here, or like saying you're safe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here with you, like running that through my brain to help to like counteract or to kind of fight
Yeah.
off, especially when you're in very difficult situations.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stress, or there's some, like for me it's like in really like intimate relationships when it's
Yeah.
hard times, and it's
Yeah.
like, and it's just
Yeah.
fun. It's like, okay, I'm here with you. I'm here with you.
Yeah.
You know, something. So
Yeah.
so saying things and then also doing those breathing techniques helps for me personally.
Yeah, and that's
You know?
exactly what, I mean, that's exactly right, because that's exactly what I do too when I have times when I'm feeling anxious or can't sleep. I really do connect with my breath. And often, because the mind is so agitated when things like that are happening, like I have some like positive affirmation, like meditations that I listen to in conjunction, and doing that and the breathing at the same time, like is really, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's giving your mind and your body something to do. So that part of you that feels like it has, because that's like what anxiety is. It's that part of you that's like, I have to be doing something. Like, you know, there's a part of you that's like, you know, I need to hunt for food. I need to go out and gather more berries or whatever. And you just, it's like you want to do something to fix whatever the problem is, but there's not a real problem. You're not actually starving. You have a fridge full of food. You have a roof over your head, but you're worried about God
or
knows
if you
what.
have like a negative interaction with somebody, you know, and like those are really, really hard.
They are.
And it's like bringing yourself back into the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, and intimate relationships, I feel like, can be super hard. I mean, I've definitely had times in my life and relationships where I look back on them now and I'm like, okay, well, that was extremely unhealthy and my cortisol was spiking all over the place. But I remember like sitting in my office and like I'd be like sweating and like feeling like I'm stinky. It's like, it's because you're like in like this heightened state of fear, like constantly. It's like you're like a wild animal that thinks it's about to die.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's just someone being a jerk.
Yeah. And that's because that's the society we live in these days. We don't actually have to go and, you know, hunt for our own food. We
I'd rather be being chased by like a woolly mammoth, honestly.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I know.
Yeah.
Can we go back to those?
I do know.
It's so true.
Yeah. And then we can also, you know, just going back to the beginning when you talked about our nervous system.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you are in that state of fight or flight or freeze for too long, you know, your body will not know how to function outside of it. It thinks that it will, like, especially with stress, like it will think that you just have to be stressed all the time, or you have to be doing things all the time and filling up your time and be going and going and going and going, and it won't, because it won't know how to regulate it.
Yep, exactly. And that in the freeze, like the fight, flight, or freeze, the freeze aspect is something that I feel like that aspect of it's been getting a lot more attention, because that is like the other response is, beside being like super agitated or just wanting to run away and avoid everything, which I've done both of those things in my life. There's also the freeze thing, which for me, it manifests as procrastination. It's just that feeling of like, I'm so overwhelmed, I have so much to do, and I'm going to go scroll on Facebook and look at people's baby pictures of people I haven't seen since high school. You know what I mean? Because it's like, again, your mind is like, well, I'm going to trick myself into thinking I'm doing something to solve the problem. But really, you're not. Again, you are regulating yourself, but in an unhealthy way, because it's activating like the whole dopamine system and all of that. And so you're getting that regulation just like you might, you know, if you go have a couple beers.
Right.
But there's like unintended consequences of that regulation. And so again, it's just having the ways that like there's no like bad consequences that I know of to doing breath work. You know what I mean? Like there's no
you
side
might
effect.
Get lightheaded.
Exactly. So let's go into some of the somatic exercises. So again, somatic release exercises, they're just really again to help tone that vagus nerve and activate the parasympathetic nervous system. So there's something that, again, they kind of are another aspect of the nervous system regulation toolkit that I have. And so sometimes the somatic release exercises, sometimes I'll do them along with my yoga practice or with breath work, or sometimes I'll just do them totally separately if I'm just feeling like, oh, I don't really want to sit and breathe today, but like doing these stretches before I go out is going to make me feel better or whatever. And for the vagus nerve toning, I mean, there's so, like, any kind of yoga or stretching in general is going to be good for it. So it's not just these specific exercises. Like I said, there's hundreds of vagus nerve toning exercises. And then outside of the ones that are specifically for that, just like yoga and stretching in general is good for that. Breathing in general is good for that. There's other things that are good for it too, like gargling or humming, like other things that just kind of help to stimulate this whole part of your body, because again, your vagus nerve, it's coming from your brain. And so the most density of connections and where it's really getting a lot of its activation is in like this whole part of your body that's coming down through your neck and your spinal cord and your shoulders. And so a lot of stuff that you can do to stimulate that part of your body helps tone that nerve as well. And so the exercises that I picked to share today, because I really think they're effective, they incorporate eye movement. And eye movement is, it kind of enhances the vagus nerve exercises even more than just the stretching, because again, the eyes are such a huge part of our nervous system. I mean, it's one of like, it's our five senses, arguably the one that as humans we probably have the most developed. And so our eyes are one of the things that often right away are signaling danger to us. And so that's like where a lot of our information comes in. And so the optical nerves and all of that are very closely tied to the parasympathetic nervous system, and like the actual like pathways through the muscles and stuff that are used by the eyes also parallel the ones with the parasympathetic nerves. And so moving the eyes in certain ways, again, it's like toning those muscle channels, toning those pathways for the nerves, and just kind of strengthening even more through that mechanism of like, you're telling your body you're safe. So you're making a motion that's like a safe motion. And then by doing that, then your body's like, oh, I am safe. And then it actually starts to regulate itself and become safe. And so, like I said, these ones all include the eyes. And the first one is very straightforward. You just start in a seated position, and you'll be looking straight ahead with a nice straight spine. And what you'll do is you'll bring both of your eyes to the right and look to the right like as far as you can with your eyes. And then once you're there, you're going to bring your right ear to your right shoulder. And you're just going to hold it for like 20 to 30 seconds. And you can blink and come out of it. And before we do the left side, I want to ask, so did either of you feel like as you were holding that, maybe 15, 20 seconds into it, did you feel like a feeling in yourself of either like a release of tension or emotion, and or like a sensation like you wanted to sigh or yawn?
Possibly a release of like tension.
Okay.
That's closer to that.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just curious because
Switching.
it was hard too though. I'm like, am I doing this right? Am I looking far enough? So
I'll watch you guys do it on the left side.
Yeah.
So do you have a question?
No.
So this one, like I took a class for somatic release, and like the way it was taught to me was that you can often find a physical feeling of release, or like an emotional feeling of release, or that you'll actually get this like urge, like you have to yawn, like when you're just like really tired and like your body just like makes you yawn, and it feels so good.
Yeah.
And for myself, I feel that when I do these exercises that it makes me want to yawn. But I've taught this to like several other people like over the last couple years, and like some people feel that and some people don't. So, and it's like not right or wrong. I think it's just how your system is reacting. So I was just curious like what your experience was of it, because I know I have like a very strong feeling of like wanting to yawn when I do these exercises. So, okay, so for the left, you'll just sit up nice and tall. You'll move both of your eyes together to the left corner as far as you can, and then keeping your eyes there, you'll just bring your left ear towards your left shoulder, and then keep your head where it is, keep your eyes where they are, and just hold that for 20 or 30 seconds. And then whenever you're ready, you can just blink and come back to center. You're not supposed to, well, no, you're not supposed to blink.
Okay.
I mean, if you do, it's okay. The main thing is that you want to keep the eyes turned that way because it's working those muscles. Those optical muscles are being worked in a certain way, which again, it's the working of those muscles that triggers the nervous system to be like, oh, this is comfortable. Yeah.
I definitely feel it when I'm coming out of it. I feel something.
Okay.
I don't know if it's like wanting to yawn, but it feels something.
Yeah. No, that's really interesting. And I would say maybe like if you're at home trying it, just like hold it even longer and see if that's what it is that maybe you just need to hold it longer. But yeah, that's interesting. What about you? Do you feel?
I didn't, it was like when I did it, it was like a feeling of, so I could feel like the stretch and I could feel it working, and it was like I could feel like just the tension or the need for the stretch, but I didn't necessarily feel like an obvious sense of relief or whatever. But I do know that like we all carry all of our different stuff in different places too, and so Yeah, and that's very true. And I wonder if for me, if the reason why these exercises have such like an extreme like impact is because I have always carried a lot of tension in this part of my body. So maybe that's why. And so then a variation on this one is literally the exact same thing, except you turn your eye and then you bring your head to the opposite side. So you can, turn your eyes to the right ear to right shoulder, or you can turn your eyes to the right and then left ear to left shoulder. And it's just a variation on the same exercise. That one brings up a lot of emotion.
Interesting. That is really interesting. Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that. Yeah. Yeah, that's something to explore.
I know.
Yeah. It's like crazy. I mean, there's so many things that, it's like so interesting how our energetic and emotional body is like overlaid on our physical body, and we just really like in our society have like so little understanding of how those things are all connected. Like they're layers and they're all connected, and we just focus so much on what we can see and touch that it's like, well, of course the energy is connected too. So let's do the Sphinx pose. This is another good one that I like. You just want to lay on your belly. This one is good. Again, very basic. You'll just come to your belly. You'll have your elbows under your shoulders, like you're doing Sphinx. You can kind of bring your feet together and then let your heels fall open to the side. And then I just like to take a deep breath here, and just as I exhale, kind of just consciously tell my lower back, like just relax your lower back and your glutes. And then this one, it's really straightforward. You're just going to, again, turn your eyes to the right and then look to the right. Take a deep breath in and out. And then blink and come back to center. And then turn the eyes to the left. And look to the left. And blink and come back to center. So again, that's just another exercise, another technique. All of these are kind of interchangeable, but I just wanted to give you a couple of options so you know, if there's one that you feel like is more effective for you or you like the result of it, then that you can incorporate that one more. And the next one we'll do, I'll show you, is the salamander exercise. And this one's like my favorite one because I definitely feel this one, and it really, it gets your whole body in on the action. And again, your vagus nerve, it goes through your whole body. And so I really like this one because I feel like, you know, it covers off on a lot, starting from the eyes all the way down to the hips. And so for this one, you're going to be in tabletop position. So for tabletop, you ideally want to have your wrists right below your shoulders, your knees right below your hips. And then for this exercise, you want to have your spine in a straight line as much as possible. So you'll probably notice right now that, like, if your head is up, you know, you can feel like if your chin's lifted up, you're not in a straight line. So it's kind of hard to try to find that straight place with your spine without having someone tell you. But like Catherine, yours looks pretty straight right now. And maybe bring your chin toward your chest just like a little bit more. Yeah, that's perfect. Okay, so while you're here, what you're going to do is you are going to look with your eyes to the right, and again, look hard to the right with both eyes and keep them there. And then while your eyes are still holding to the right, you're going to bring your right ear towards your right shoulder. And then kind of in one fluid motion, you'll start to bring your right ear and your right shoulder towards your right hip. And so your whole spine is kind of making a C curve. So that looks good. And then once you get into that C curve, you'll just, again, hold it for 20 to 30 seconds and just notice if you feel any kind of release or stimulation or what that feels like for you guys. And I'm gonna go ahead and do it here too. Anything? How did that feel?
I just always feel something when I'm like coming back
Yeah.
out of it, which is...
No, I mean, and that's not bad. I mean, I think that is, I usually feel it more at the end too. Like oftentimes when I feel that sense of like I need to take a deep breath or sigh or yawn, it will be when I'm at the end and I'm like ready to come back. Because that's the thing, is when you do these stretches, you're kind of holding you're not holding your breath, but it'll make you feel like you're not breathing as deeply. And so then when you feel that sensation of like, oh, I need to breathe, for me it manifests as like I need to yawn. So it's just interesting how that happens. So let's try it on the left side. So again, finding that nice tabletop position, keeping the spine nice and long, and then turning your eyeballs together to the left corner. And then bringing the left ear to the left shoulder. And then curving that spine, bringing the left ear and the left shoulder towards the left hip. Keeping the eyes pulled as far as they can to the left. Yay.
It's just so relaxing afterwards. I don't know.
Yeah. Like, do you feel it? You feel calmer, like, in your body just from
I
doing
don't know
some,
if
like...
I'm doing it right, but I feel calmer.
Well, then you're doing it right. You're
Yeah.
doing it right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the goal. I mean, and again, it's sometimes it's hard to, like, comprehend, because it's like, how can something so simple make me feel better? But it's because that's, like, the power that we have in our bodies all the time. And so it's just, again, taking the time to learn about these things and harness it. So,
Well, in our program, to like, oh, we're tired. Oh, have another cup of coffee. It's like,
yeah, like, that's
it's
the
like, you're
opposite
tired.
of what
No,
you should
what
do.
you need is sleep.
Yeah.
You need
Yeah.
rest. Yeah, it's just crazy.
Yep.
Yeah,
Crazy world.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Or
No.
if you're stressed, bury it down and
Right.
just power through.
Right.
Power through.
Right.
Totally. It's all for the, like, how can you be a maximum productive
Yeah.
output for our economy?
Yes, absolutely.
But I won't go on that
Yeah,
tangent.
I
But
Then we'll have to work on our breath work.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is. It's crazy. So,
Well, and I just want to add too.
yeah, please.
To comment on, you didn't know if you're doing it right.
Mm-hmm.
There's no actual, like, really right way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Sure.
You know,
It'll be
it's
a little
what's
different for,
what's right for you and what's best for you.
It's so true. And I think that that's really important, is like, I mean, that's even why something like meditation or any kind of, like, internal exploration with yourself, even if it's just laying on the couch with your eyes closed and just being like, I'm gonna focus on my thoughts or whatever, like, you will start to find things for yourself that you sometimes don't even know what you're doing or how you're doing it, but you're like, this is somehow relaxing me.
Yeah.
You know? And yeah, there's just like a whole world of energy that you know, we're open to explore. And so I think that's why it's super exciting that you guys came and wanted to learn about this, learn more about it, and, you know, just take the time to incorporate some different practices into your life that, you know, can help you. So whether you liked all of these or there's just like a couple of them that you're like, oh, that was cool, I want to explore that more, like, at least now you have a couple things that you can come back to and recognize that there's, like, really big benefits from just doing one simple thing that doesn't really take that long. Sometimes just like a couple minutes of deep breathing can totally change your entire day. But it really is just getting over that first initial mind piece, because there's that part of your mind that's like, the last thing I want to do right now is sit still and breathe deeply because I have too much other shit to do. You know what I mean? And, like, that's
Right.
that feeling. And it's just learning how to, like, recognize in your brain, like, I just need to force myself to do this, because once I take the first breath, my body's going to be like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And so, you know, just reminding yourself of that, of, like, when you're sitting in your office and you're feeling stressed, being like, I'm just going to, like, shut my door and get on my hands and knees and do a salamander for a couple minutes. And I'm going to feel like a whole new woman after.
Right.
Because it does. It does. And it's empowering, too, to, like, know that you have that ability to reframe how you feel and therefore reframe your entire day and how it's going to go. And that starts with you and just being able to take that time for yourself. Again, it's like, it's getting out of the mindset of, like, I have to do more in order to fix all the things I have to fix. It's like, sometimes you have to do nothing and just start with fixing yourself and how you feel. And that's going to make your attitude better, how things are going in your relationships better, like, all of it. It's, like, all so interconnected. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and especially because it's so, like, it's a foreign thing to do, not just
It
the breath
is.
work, not just the somatic stuff, but taking the time to connect with yourself.
Yeah.
And teaching yourself and figuring out what are the practices that work for you, what can you incorporate into your life, you know. And it's not like it's a light switch, like, oh, I went to a breathworks class and I'm going to be able to do this.
Right.
You're going to leave, and go back into the real world, you know.
Yeah.
And so it's just like little practices, little things, or, you know, coming back to it if you forget about it for however long. And
Yeah.
saying, oh, you know what, I'm going to try this. I did this 6 months ago or 2 weeks ago or whatever.
Yep.
But you know what, I'm going to try this.
Yep.
And when I feel like this, I'm going to make an effort to, you know, to work this into my habits, to build that habit.
Totally. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because it does. It is, ultimately, it is about building a new habit. And that does start with just reminding yourself that you have that available to you and that you can make that choice at any time.
Yeah.
So it's really powerful. I'm very excited and happy that you guys came today.
Thank you for doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this a lot. I just wanted to put at the very end, I have a book I would recommend. It's called Breath, The New Science of Lost Art.
I think I own that book.
Yeah, it's a really good book, actually. And my boyfriend recommended to me like right when we first started dating.
Nice.
And I'm pretty sure it's like one of the reasons I liked him so much, because if I had met him now during his Lord of the Rings phase, I don't know.
It would have been like, no, thank you.
No. I'm just teasing. But it is like, it's such a good book because it, you know, it's like a lot of like nonfiction, like journalism type writing. You know, it's like the journey of a layman going into this like esoteric art. And it gave a lot of context for the breathing techniques that I'd learned at my yoga practice. And it's just a really good book because it just really spells out for you like how important how we breathe is and how we literally pay no attention to it. Like crazy things. Like he's the guy that's like, you know, put tape over your mouth every night when you go to bed so you don't like mouth breathe. Because they've done studies where like actually that like affects things like your lifespan. Like just like crazy things. And so the book is really interesting because it covers a lot of different techniques like the Wim Hof I mentioned, the box breathing that you mentioned are in there. And some of the other ones that are like really great techniques that I want to explore more, but I just like this is what I've been embodied in my life. And so there's just like so many more things to explore. But it's a really good book. It goes into like all kinds of things, like how even our breathing is affected by like our diet, and how because our diet now is food that isn't like, you don't have to chew it as hard as you used to have to chew like roots and leaves and like meat, that like our jaws don't develop the same way from like childhood, and that affects our breathing.
Wild.
And there's these crazy things, and how there's these doctors, you know, from like the 1800s and 1920s where the science has almost been like is forgotten, but people like retrained people how to like breathe correctly, and it like cured scoliosis, it cured people that were hunchbacks, it cured all of these physical things that was just that these people like had literally not developed correctly from like the most basic action, which is like our breath, you know. So anyway, I'm on a tangent about that, but it's a really good book, and I think it's super fun if like coming to this like piqued your interest and made you want to learn a little bit more about something that we kind of just completely take for granted
until we don't, and then we can't do it.
Yeah. Do you guys have any questions about anything?
I just have a question.
Yeah.
Where you did some training on release somatic exercise.
The somatic, I actually did that one online. It was through like I think it's through like Daily Om.
Okay.
So Daily Om is like a, you know, it can send out just like a daily kind of like mindfulness reminder thing, but it's something my dad signed me up for. And you know, they like every now and then they'll send out one that's like more of an advertisement for a class. And this one just caught my eye.
Nice.
Because I was seeing all of this stuff about like nervous system regulation and stuff, and I'm like, okay, like I get it, like cognitively that like what that's saying, but like what does it actually mean or do? And so I just like did the class because I wanted to understand it. And then it's like, and then you feel it in your body and you're like, oh, I get it now. Because it's one thing for your mind to understand what something is, and there's another thing for like you to actually like get it. It's like self-love. Like how many years have you talked about or heard about self-love? And then
I love myself. I love
myself. And then one day you're like, oh, that's what it is. Yeah. So the Daily Om, I can send you the exact, I can look on my computer.
I was curious. Because I probably a couple few years ago, maybe when I first started learning about like nervous system, how it impacts our behavior and the choices that we make, and just everything in our life, and then learning about trauma, and so I actually considered doing like becoming a breathwork instructor.
Oh, cool.
And then and then learning about like somatic exercises.
Yeah.
Specifically to help like to release trauma. Because I have a lot of trauma, or I've had, and so I was looking like online as to, you know, it's like, oh, well, where's a good place to go to you know, to learn about this stuff more. So
no, and the course I took, it was like it was very accessible. It was like a combination of written and video, and it was honestly didn't take me a long time to go through it. You know, it was nice, but it covered off on like a lot of the basics.
Nice.
There was one article that I had read through my last program at school, and it was talking about, and I wish I have such a horrible memory, but it was talking about PTSD and different techniques like this can like as better therapy than like medication or I wish I knew the exact name of what it was called, but it was very similar to kind of some of the somatic stuff that we were doing, and it just like completely blew my mind. Something so like PTSD is serious, and you know, like, you know, but it like the success rate was super high, and it's really interesting to hear. So
when it's in well, like the somatic stuff is, it's how it's like the physical movement to help to release the whatever is trapped inside of our bodies. That, like, you know, I was reading I don't know if it's the Body Keeps Score or something about how our bodies will hold on to trauma, and they were, you know, and they used this example of like in Africa, you know, one of the animals, when it's being chased by a lion or something, you know, it'll be spiked, you know, it's in this, you know, flight mode, it's in this, you know, space, and then when it's safe, it will actually like fall on the ground and shake, or, you know, or something like that, and that helps it to release like all of that built up stuff. And, you know, as humans in the life that we lead now, we go through hard times, and we just go through hard times.
We're just not even allowed to cry.
We're not even allowed to recognize it. We're not even allowed to. We don't,
and then instead of
we don't
actually
know how to process it.
Instead of actually comforting ourselves, we just like heap on these like false comforts. I mean, not false, but again, not
like
really the best.
To like let it go. And that, I mean, and that was something like after the landslide for me, because it was such a traumatic experience. And it triggered like so many traumatic experiences from my past, and it was like, all right, I need to dive in and dig in and like figure out. And then my nervous system was all beat to hell, and, you know, and so it's really interesting though, because we just like wake up, we go through our day, we go to sleep, and we do it over and over again, no matter what it is that we're experiencing.
Totally. And it is, I mean, because that's the thing, is at the end of the day, our brain, at least like our prefrontal cortex, is like a computer that like we evolved in order to like become the very intelligent things that we are, that are able to constantly process our stimuli and make, you know, assumptions about it. But what that literally means is that our brain is completely operating off the past. That's what it's operating off, because that's what the input is. And so our whole lives, our brains are being programmed, whether we know it or not. And then at some point we like end up here, and we're like, oh, I actually can be the one that controls how this is programmed. And once you become conscious of it, it's like having a light shown on something, and then you can't unsee it. And then you realize you're like, oh, I can.
Enlightenment. There's a word for that.
Exactly. Because, and that's what it really is. It's just realizing. It's realizing like, my brain, my computer is running, and either I'm the one running it, or it's being run on its autopilot.
It's just going on. Yeah. Michael Singer, I think, has a good book, and I can't remember the name right off the top of my head, but he talks a lot about like the brain, and understanding that narrative that runs through your brain it doesn't have to be true.
Right.
And it is something that we have a choice to you know, we can work to actually change how the thoughts that we have.
Totally. And that's a whole nother, I mean, like, that's the thing, is there's so many aspects, because today we touched on like the somatic part, like the breath and the physical exercises that can help bring you back to center. But then like meditation, positive affirmations, those other things are another piece of it, because again, whether we're, like what you said in the beginning, whether we're reacting to stimuli in our environment that are putting us into fight or flight, or if we're just reacting off the same story we're telling ourselves over and over again, that's not even real. Yeah. It's literally a story in our brain that's affecting our whole physiology.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to think about. Yeah.
It is. And like that story that runs, it's like it's based off of like the generational trauma that like our families went through, or whoever, right? So so those core emotions, those hard times, like that, and then whatever it is that we've gone through
that reinforces those things.
Those things. And it's so hard to, when it's happening, like, and I've been doing this for years now, and I've made tremendous progress, but it's still like I will still catch myself in those places of like running through just negative thought cycles, spiraling. I can't stop thinking about it, and it's like, all right, you know, I know this isn't true, or like, how can I self-soothe? How can I pull myself out? What are the words? What do I need to do for me to do that?
And the beautiful thing, and I think like the big thing with like any kind of like wellness journey that you're on in whatever aspect or modality you're playing with, it's like having that grace and patience with yourself to be like, I'm not going to be good at this right away. Because you're right. Like even the most, you know, like exalted guru has days when they just are going to lose their shit because they're human, and that's normal. But like the things to remember are to like have grace and forgiveness with yourself. Be like, you know, I wouldn't, if I wanted to lose 10 pounds, am I going to go to the gym for the week and then cry because I haven't lost 10 pounds? It's like, no, you know that you have to have more patience and more discipline than that. And the same thing applies with like working out your brain. It's the exact same. And being able to have that excitement and that gratitude for noticing that like, I still lose it sometimes, but also I do know, looking at myself, that I also can come back like way faster than I used to. You know, it used to be like I'd be upset and dysregulated sometimes for days. Days of anxiety, days of stress, days of like having IBS and like being stressed out and not like being able to eat anything and just like all the things. And now it's like, oh, I'm angry. I just sent like 30 text messages I probably didn't need to send. And then you like go do some yoga and you're like, oh, I could probably call and apologize for how I presented that. You know what I mean? And it's just, and that feels good to be like, oh, I don't have to keep like fighting or flighting or freezing.
And I can don't just have to keep beating myself up because I didn't do it right, or I made this mistake, or I'm not good enough, and you know, I offended. You know, look at all the ways that I failed, instead of recognizing how far I've come and the successes.
Totally.
Successes that I've had today. You know?
And it's hard.
It is hard.
I'm sure we're all highly critical.
Of ourselves.
Not
Chelsea and perfect.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
This made me very happy, and I really appreciated like the conversation and just being able to share.
Thank you for doing this. I think it's important. So.
Of course. It means a lot to me. I definitely want to keep doing more things like this. So thanks for coming and giving me encouragement and support.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
You're doing great.
Thank you.
So you're teaching yoga too?
Yeah, so I've been teaching yoga